Hello, I hope we all are doing well. Yes, please mention it in the comments. How are you all doing? And today we are going to start with a new topic. So before I start with the new topic and I tell you which topic are we going to talk about today, I would just like to tell you that today I have thought of preparing the video in some different way and watch the video till end so that you can let me know which way of preparing the video did you prefer or do you like. This way wherein the pre-prepared content is there or the traditional method of making the video. Okay, so do let me know in the comments and accordingly I'll start preparing the future videos for you all. So let's begin. Today we are going to start with the new topic, that is how microorganisms are harmful to us. So microorganisms, they are harmful to many ways. For example, they can cause different diseases. So the microorganisms, they can cause diseases not only in human beings, but also in animals and plants as well. So we all might have heard that, this is a bacterial disease, or for example, common cold is due to virus, or influenza is due to virus, or some other disease which is caused by the bacteria. So it is not that only to human beings these microorganisms can cause diseases, they can cause diseases to both plants and animals as well. So other plant animals and other plant and plants as well, the diseases can be caused by the microorganisms too. Now, diseases which are caused by the microorganisms, or the microorganisms which cause the diseases, they are called as pathogens. So the pathogens, they are basically the organisms which cause the diseases. Now, these pathogens can be bacteria, these pathogens can be fungi, protozoa, and the viruses, etc. Now, the question arises, how does these pathogens enter our body? So the pathogens, they can enter our body when we are breathing, that is through air. They can enter through the water that we are drinking, through the food that we eat, and sometimes through direct and indirect contact also. So when we say direct contact can be by the person who is already infected, directly through that person, or indirectly through the infected person. So indirectly through infected person to a healthy person, that is indirect contact. And apart from that, it can be also through some carriers. So I'll give you some examples. For example, here in this image, we see that a person is using a handkerchief, a person who is suffering from maybe some disease wherein the person is sneezing and is using a handkerchief. So whatever the sneeze droplets are there in the handkerchief, if this handkerchief is touched by some other healthy person, then there are chances that the healthy person will also catch the disease. Okay. Now, other than this, what can happen is, this is the example of indirect contact, because the person is not giving, the sneeze droplets, they are not falling, or they are not coming in person come in contact with the healthy person directly. This is because some healthy person has touched this handkerchief and then the person catches the disease. Okay. Now, example of direct contact can be, for example, here we see that a person is sneezing and the sneeze droplet has fallen directly on the healthy person's hand. So this can be an example wherein it is coming to the disease is coming to a healthy person directly. Okay. Then through carriers. So for example, we know that malaria is caused to us because of some, mosquito. So here the mosquito is a carrier. Why? Because the microorganism which causes malaria is Plasmodium, right? And Plasmodium is a protozoan. So Plasmodium is carried by this mosquito from the infected person's blood, as maybe that, the mosquito has sucked some infected person's blood, and then the mosquito sucks the blood of a healthy person. Then the protozoan which is there, carried by this mosquito, will go to a healthy person. So here this mosquito is a carrier. So there are certain diseases which are caused by the carriers as well. And very good examples of carriers can be the houseflies, because houseflies, they sit on garbage, they sit on, the sewage and all the dirty areas, and maybe some infected dung, etc., etc. And they, if the food is, say, uncovered, they sit on uncovered food, and then they transmit the pathogen to that food. And if it is consumed by some healthy person, then the healthy person catches the disease. So this is how the carriers work. Okay. Now, what are the harmful effects of the microorganisms? So as I said that they are the microorganisms, they can be pathogens as well, which can spread some diseases. So the diseases, they can be spread by the microorganisms, and the microorganisms can cause diseases in plants, animals, and human beings. And other than that, they can even spoil the food. Very good example can be, suppose whatever leftover food was there, if mother forgets to keep this in the refrigerator, next morning we cannot eat that, right? However, if the same food would have had been kept in the refrigerator, then it was very much fit for eating. So what exactly has happened? That the microorganisms, they have acted upon that food, and the food has been spoiled, right? So they have grown on the food, and that is why the food has been spoiled, right? So this is the another effect of the microorganisms, or another harmful effect of the microorganisms. Okay, so now I have a question. What are diseases then? Please mention it in the comments. What are diseases, or what do you understand that what a disease is? Okay, so basically the disease is a condition wherein the body is not feeling convenient, or the body is not at ease. Yes. So what disease is? Disease, it is a condition where the body is not at ease. Now, how do we identify whether the body is not at ease, or some of the organ is not functioning well, or there is some disturbance in the functioning of any organ or any part of the body? How do we understand? So the body gives some signs and symptoms, right? So what is a sign or a symptom? A sign or a symptom is something that the patient experiences. It can be a kind of, it can be some pain or fatigue, or something wherein, maybe sometimes we feel that we have got fever, or stomach ache, or any pain in any part of the body. So that can be the symptom or the sign which indicates that the body is not functioning normal. Yes. So that is what a disease is. So it can be, we can say that a disease, it is a condition of a living organism or of the body, wherein the body or a particular part of the body is not functioning well. Okay. And how do we identify about this, or how do we get to know that the body is not functioning well? Because of some pain or some signs and symptoms. Yes. Okay. Now the thing is, what are different types of diseases? Are there some different types of diseases? So we will talk about this, that what are different types of the diseases. So the diseases, they can be basically of two types. One is the congenital, and the other one is the acquired. So congenital means something that has taken place, or some disease which is there in the organism since birth. Congenital is since birth, and acquired, something that the organism has acquired later on. Okay, so that is an acquired disease. Now, the acquired diseases, they can be further divided into two. One is the communicable or the infectious disease, and the second one is the non-communicable or non-infectious disease. So communicable diseases, as I said, can be, common cold, influenza, then recently, this COVID. All these are communicable diseases that can spread from infected person to a healthy person. They are all communicable diseases. And non-communicable diseases, something that cannot be spread from infected person to a healthy person. So that is non-communicable diseases. Okay. So communicable disease, example, as I said, common cold. So one thing we all might have seen that, say, in a class, there are, suppose, 30 students, right? And a child is suffering from common cold. So we notice that one child who's suffering from common cold has come in the class, but not all the children, but just maybe one or two children, they also catch the common cold. So why is it so that not all the children have caught the common cold, only one or two children caught common cold from that infected child? So the reason is that the immune system of those two children might not be that very strong that it could fight the microorganism, or it could fight the pathogen, and only two children caught the common cold. Rest all, their immune system has been strong enough to fight the disease and they did not catch the common cold, right? So how the communicable diseases are spread? Communicable diseases, they can spread through direct contact. Direct contact means the exposure to infected body fluids such as blood or saliva, and even the sneeze as well, the sneeze droplets, as I said. So that also can be, the body fluid to which somebody comes in direct contact. A healthy person comes in direct contact with the body fluid or the blood or the saliva of an infected person. And then it can be through some vectors, for example, the housefly or the mosquitoes, etc. Some animals or insects, they are the vectors. Through them also they can be spread. Then some of the diseases, they are spread through air. So those which are airborne, wherein the germs, they can survive in air, and if a healthy person breathes that air in, then also it can happen that the person catches the disease or the diseases are spread. It can also spread through water and food. So whenever contaminated food, a food which is contaminated with the germs, is eaten by a healthy person, then also there is a possibility that the person catches the disease and the diseases spread. Then through indirect contact. So indirect contact, as I said, that sometimes what happens, the pathogens, they remain on the surface that were used by the infected person. And as they remain on the surface, and when some healthy person comes and touches that surface, then there are chances that the healthy person also gets infected by the disease. So these are a few ways wherein these communicable diseases can be spread. Now, what is a vector? So vector, it is an organism which is capable of transmitting the disease from an infected individual to a new individual without itself getting infected. So the question arises, are the vectors also infected by the disease? So no, the vectors, they are not infected by the disease. Example can be female Anopheles mosquito that carries malarial parasite between humans. This is an example of vector. So basically what happens, that it carries the malarial parasite, that is Plasmodium, which is the actual cause of the malaria, right? So malaria, it is a protozoan disease which is caused by a Plasmodium, but the vector here is the female Anopheles mosquito. Similarly, female Aedes mosquito, it carries the virus that is responsible for the dengue fever. So these are some examples of the vectors, the female Anopheles mosquito and the female Aedes mosquito. So as of now, we have discussed that the diseases, they can be caused by through food, through water, through air, through vectors, maybe sometimes directly or indirectly. And one more way of spreading the disease is the carrier. So the question arises, what are carriers? If you know it, please mention it in the comments, what carriers are. See, basically the carriers, they are the healthy individuals who have, caught the disease, who has the capacity of transmitting the disease, but they do not show any symptoms by themselves, right? In themselves, the symptoms would not be shown, but they have the capacity to transmit the disease. During the COVID, we might have heard several times that some person, they have been infected, but they actually did not get any symptoms. They actually did not suffer, but they were the carriers. So carriers, they are the healthy individuals who has the capacity to transmit the disease, right? So they can carry the pathogen, but they themselves do not get any symptoms of the disease. So they themselves do not feel any pain, nothing would be there, but they can transmit the disease to a healthy person. So they are the carriers. So let's talk about the non-communicable disease. As we have discussed about the communicable diseases and how are they spread, now the non-communicable disease. So the non-communicable disease, they are majorly divided into 4 categories. One can be the cardiovascular diseases, then it can be diabetes, then chronic respiratory diseases and cancer. So cardiovascular diseases or the heart diseases, they are, they are non-communicable, they do not spread. Then diabetes, this is also a disease which is caused because of shortage of or less insulin being produced in the body. So this is also a non-communicable disease. Then respiratory diseases, certain respiratory diseases, for example, asthma and asthma that, is again non-communicable. Then cancer. Cancer is a disease wherein the mass of the cells or the cells, they start growing in the body and they become harmful, or carcinogen cells, they become harmful for the body, and they are the that is how the cancer is formed. So this is also non-communicable. So these diseases, these non-communicable diseases, basically they are also called as lifestyle diseases. So nowadays what has happened that, less of activities are there. Basically we human beings and the animals, their body is designed in such a way which requires a lot of movement, lot of activities, physical activities. And nowadays our lifestyle has become as such that we do not involve ourselves into many physical activities, and that is how we result into these lifestyle diseases, like the cardiovascular diseases, the diabetes, then respiratory diseases, and the cancer, etc., etc. So basically these are also basically diabetes and many of the heart diseases like BP, etc., they can be the lifestyle diseases. So how do we avoid these diseases, these non-communicable diseases? Many of them can be avoided. So how to avoid this? Healthy lifestyle, physical activity, enough sleep, then mental balance, etc., may help in avoiding these lifestyle diseases or some of the non-communicable diseases. Yes. Now, one more bad effect of the microorganisms can be the algal bloom. See, algae, this actually does not cause any direct disease to human beings or animals, but when the algae, it grows rapidly over the surface of the water body, then it causes damage to the other organisms, which are other aquatic organisms, or the other organisms which are surviving in the water. So basically what happens is that, as it grows a lot, we can see here over the water body, as it has grown a lot in a large quantity, then it prevents the passage of the sunlight under the water surface. So because of the lack of sunlight and the oxygen, what happens that the aquatic plants and animals which survive under the water surface, they would not be able to survive, and the decrease in their population takes place, which is how this algal bloom is harmful. And this is again one more harmful effect of the microorganisms. So these are certain harmful effects of the microorganisms. Now, apart from this, the microorganisms, they also cause food poisoning. So we'll talk about this as well. So I'll tell you what is food poisoning, but before that, we all know what happens when we have, faced this food poisoning. So there are certain symptoms, what the food poisoning includes. It can be abdominal pain, it can be diarrhea, fever, sometimes vomiting, nausea, or malaise. So all these are some common symptoms of the food poisoning. Now, basically what happens, how is the food poisoned? So food is poisoned because of the bacteria or any microorganism, right? So as now what happens, how do we identify whether the food is poisoned or the food poisoning has taken place? So these are the symptoms that will help you in understanding that the food poisoning has taken place. Now, sometimes it may happen that we have consumed the unhygienic food, or sometimes it may happen that we have consumed the food wherein already some bacteria or some microorganisms has worked, or on which it has already worked on. For example, the food was already spoiled, and then we have consumed that, and sometimes we have consumed the food from some unhygienic places, right? So these are certain reasons how the food poisoning can take place. And symptoms, as I said, it could be the abdominal pain, diarrhea, fever, vomiting, and malaise, etc. So how do we prevent the food poisoning? So there are some preventive measures. The preventive measures can be wash your hands before and after preparing the food. And we have also always been advised to wash our hands before taking food. Before taking our meal, we should wash our hands, right? So not only before and after preparing food, but also before taking in the meal. Then also we should wash our hands. Then if we are using meat, poultry, fish, eggs, etc., so that has to be cooked thoroughly. And the third thing can be washing the vegetables and fruits very properly before consuming the vegetables and fruits. So nowadays what we do is that we are washing the fruits and vegetables with the tap water. I would suggest that after washing them with the tap water, we should once wash them with our filtered water as well to prevent the food poisoning. So apart from these measures, one more way can help in the food poisoning or can prevent the food poisoning, that is food preservation. There are different ways how the food can be preserved, how we preserve fresh fruits and vegetables. So I'll discuss that in the next video. And I hope whatever has been covered today, it's all well understood. But still, if there is any doubt, any question, any query, please do mention it in the comments. And at the same time, mention this as well, that did you like this method of teaching, or you want me to continue preparing the videos in the traditional way? So please mention it in the comments. Until then, happy learning.